Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Living in the Limelight, an Anton Scholl and Friends podcast where we discuss music from the artist and fan perspective. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hey, welcome to another edition of Living in the Limelight, the podcast where we talk to musicians about music and a whole bunch of other stuff that they're involved in. Today, my very special guest, man of many faces, man of many talents, Mr. Dave Cornwall. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you, Anton? Nice to talk with you today.
Very good. Thank you. We've
been in the same universe, but haven't quite crossed, so exactly. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it is our first time. I've known of you for a long time. I mean, even going way back where like there was a documentary on you guys back in the day that I saw. So we'll talk about that. But anyway, just so everybody knows, Living in the Limelight podcast today, we're going to talk to Dave about, all of the everything, a lot of Rush, because we do, that's what we have in common. But you also have other tribute bands that you've done in the past. Well-rounded, very talented musician, singer, bass player, keyboardist, kind of a little bit of everything. And we do have some things in common that we'll talk about that, again, we've never really met, but have crossed paths in certain ways. So let's get off, starting off, of course, with, let's first talk about you. Where are you from? And when did you start out as far as like knowing that you wanted to be a musician?
I'm actually from Phoenix. I'm one of the few back in the day. My parents basically came here because he worked at Luke Air Force Base. So that's how I got out here. So I'm a West Side kid from when there was no West Side, basically. I could remember looking out past my house and there were just fields that went towards California. There was just nothing else. So grew up in a John F. Long home on the West Side. My neighbor across the street was a little older than me, and he had a record collection, right? He was into it. He was, probably 10 years older than me at the time. So he was definitely older, but, kind of looked up to him as we do. And my first record was a Monkees record. So I still have it, actually. I should have pulled that thing out. But so I got the Monkees record that he gave me. It's one of the original pressings, and I listened to that, and oh wow, that's cool, really cool. Then that kind of progressed to, well, the Beatles, right? I mean, where else are you gonna go, right? So then the Beatles came in, and you listen to that. But I was still just a kid, not quite there yet. The Inklings were there. I think what really did it was this right here, Rock Show, the movie that Paul McCartney did in '76. So I was a little kid reading the paper. Oh, Mom, look, Rock Show's playing at the theater. Can you take me? Yeah, okay. So she acts like she drops me off. I get, because, I'm a big guy now, I'm probably 10, maybe 9, right in that area. Acts like she left me there, but I busted her later. She was watching me, of course. But watching on that big screen, those guys, Paul and that band, just doing that thing with the lights and the color and the boom, boom. And, that was probably the moment right there that I just went, wow, this is just insane. This is really cool, and I want to be a part of it in some way, somehow, right?
Sure. And what brought up the bass? Now back in that time, bass playing was not the instrument of choice. Everybody wanted to be either a lead singer or they wanted to be a lead guitar player.
Absolutely.
Right? So how did that come about?
Well, same with me. I wanted to be a lead guitar player. I mean, I was a lead guitar player. I was a lead guitar player way long before I played the bass really like I am now, right? But early on, I think it was 5th or 6th grade band. I got into the 5th or 6th grade band, and they needed a bass player, so I got a bass, right? And played that. But little guy, trying to play that bass back then. Ow. So didn't really resonate at the time, right? Didn't resonate at the time, and I had acoustic guitar, and I always kind of wanted to go guitar. All right, so I definitely went guitar first. Played played guitar for many years. Had the bass, still played it, but I was mainly a guitar player for from the '80s till '94 probably. Strictly, pretty
And
much
I
guitar.
think that's how everyone started. I did the same
Yeah.
thing. I bought a Les Paul copy. That was like my guitar back in the day, and then I would try to play it. And then there was so many guitar players that they were like, "Well, we need a bass player." And I thought, well,
Yeah,
it's got four strings. I mean, it's two less than what I'm playing now. How hard could it possibly be? And
absolutely.
then I just started playing it out of necessity,
I think a lot
But
of
then
us
of course,
happen.
yeah, then of course enjoyed it, and the world exploded, of course, when I heard the Who and Rush
Oh,
playing. Then it was like, well, there we go. This is
the
this is it.
ox,
So
the ox.
exactly.
Ooh,
So then
man.
when did the vocal part come in? Because a lot of people, when I talk to people, a lot of them come up to me and they're saying, wow, how can you sing and play at the same time, playing them bass lines at the same time? How did that come about where you wanted to also do vocals? And was it difficult to get that playing and singing at the same time down?
Well, I started doing it with the guitar, right? I mean, started vocalizing and singing with the guitar. So that I think that helped me because I did that kind of early on.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's really just practice, man, right? And it's
Yeah.
just like you gotta just kind of keep doing it. I find myself now sometimes I'm doing a song and I'm like, I'm on autopilot, right? Like almost on
Yeah.
an autopilot now, where it's like I'm playing the part, the words are coming out. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, am I driving this or is someone else? But it's just from all that rehearsal. I mean, we really early on, we really, really rehearsed religiously. I mean, we, 3, 4 times a week. This was once we started the Rush project, right? Once I started
Yeah.
that, really we what Squanto, my tech, calls chasing the chicken, right? Just like Rocky, we're chasing the chicken, get that chicken right.
Mm-hmm.
And we just did that relentlessly. Me, Rob Kippart, Brian Baker, and then also Mike O'Reilly when he came in to the band. So just maniacal. So that's where how you do it. There's no magic secret formula. There's
Mm-hmm.
no like, well, I went to bed and I counted backwards or what, I did this or that. Just got to do it, man. Just got to do it. And maybe some people will
Yeah.
catch on quicker than others.
Right. Well, how did that come about then, as far as the Rush tribute going? Because you really, I mean, you kind of did it when they were still out there, still popular.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
how did that come about where you said, okay, we're going to do the Rush thing?
I blame Scott Rowe. No. Scott Rowe,
I just
though, was
interviewed
part of
him
the
last
story.
week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I
Yeah,
watched it. I was
he mentioned you. Yeah, he mentioned
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
cool. All right, so go ahead.
we go pretty far back as in the tribute game, right? I mean, it was Scott, an Elvis dude, and then us afterwards. And Scott was the one who basically said, "Hey, you guys should do a Rush tribute." I mean, he was definitely one of the very first people to do that. I had
Mhm.
an original band called Big Jim and the Twins. It was a trio um, back in the '90s, and it was progressive. I mean, but it was more progressive metal, more. I'd come from a thrash metal band before that, and maybe we'll get into that later. But so that's how it kind of evolved. And then the bass part was, well, I had a friend that played guitar. I had a friend that played the drums. I played the guitar and a little drums and bass, and eventually went, well, I guess to your point, can't find a bass player. Well, I guess I'm going to be the guy. So I grabbed the bass, actually borrowed a friend's bass, Phil Dirt. Thank you very much. And we started working on that, and we did our originals. So we did originals for from the '90s until basically 90, 94, so probably 89 to 94, right in that area. And that's how that got started. And I might have missed the end of the question. I got a little long there.
That's okay. That's all right. Well, okay. So you're now in, how did you decide, like, okay, we're going to play Rush? Where did that part come from?
Yeah. We got invited to do a show with the aforementioned Scott Rowe and his Alice Cooper band. And we did, I think it was like a Monsters of Rock knockoff thing. And we did that a couple times, and that's where Freewill came from. That's when we decided, hey.
So the music that you played at that show, was that Rush music you played at that show, or was it something, just a bunch of different music, originals
we played
and things
Rush
like that?
music. We came up with a short set. We had started putting Rush songs into our set. With the original band, we threw in a couple Rush. We actually used to play a couple Faith No More songs. We played George Benson on Broadway. We just kind of pulled a bunch of stuff. But it seemed that people gravitated towards what do you expect? Those Rush songs, right? They're just like,
Right.
So I think eventually we went, okay, well, the people like this. They seem to want to hear it. At that time, Rush was still around, but they were kind of at the point where we weren't sure if they were done or not, because it was after Hold Your Fire. They were kind of at a point in their career where I think at that point Alex was kind of done, and they've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
So at that point, yes, they were still around, but it was like, are they going to be around? And then of course they came back and gave us another 10, 15 years of great music, luckily. But that's why we kind of went that direction.
Oh, cool. Okay, so now you decide that you're going to go into the Rush tribute. Now you're probably thinking, okay, we got to put together a show.
Mm-hmm.
So aside from the music, there was some other things. Now, most people, they just put a Rush set together. They'll do the Rush set. Yeah, they'll get the instruments. They'll get the drum set. They'll get the cool guitars, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You seem to have gone a little further than that, right? With the show itself.
Yeah.
So how did all that happen?
Just like everything. I mean, went 120%. And once I went into it, I really went into it. I was in a cult. I was in the Freewill Rush cult, basically, for a good 20 years. I mean, and just, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it the best. That's where that came in, with all the rehearsal, all the planning, making sure I did get the jazz bass, making sure. And this was all at a time when technology wasn't quite there yet either, right? Like where we are now. I remember for intro tapes, for instance, we didn't have samplers where we could afford them at that time. So the way I did it is I found one of those carousel cassette players that had you could put 5 cassettes in there. And I would have to, right before the gig, line them all up perfectly, like roll it up, stick it in there. And then I had a remote control on the keyboard. I mean, just crazy things that we do. Right. So just went all out. One time, a friend of mine said, "Hey, I found a Maytag dryer on Craigslist, so I got the dryer, right? I got the dryer, got the just all out, Hey, we need you to put on a bunny suit so you can be the Presto Bunny this gig, or just always went. Right. It's just because that's the way I am, right? Just very, if I want to do it, I want to do it right. I want to put the time and effort into it. And at times I maybe went a little overboard, but that's the way it is.
Well, there would have to be times, as if I would think, okay, now I could be totally wrong, because this is, again, back in the, let's just take it from like the 90s or so. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know when the band actually started. Was it in the 90s?
94.
Okay. So about 94. I cannot imagine that you were walking away from every gig with money falling out of your pockets. I would have to think that there was some kind of a situation to where you were probably paying to play some of your gigs. And how did that part make you and the band feel when it came down to, hey, we're in this, we're going to do it. It doesn't matter what it costs us. Or were there some feelings at one point in time of, hey, we just can't keep doing this?
Yeah, all the above, right? I mean, yeah, I remember I got an email in the early days of the internet, and somebody was rallying on me because, oh, how can you play the music of Rush and you're taking this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I just respond, I go, I've spent how many thousands of dollars that I have never made playing this music to do this, because it's like playing Army Men as a kid, but with way cooler stuff, and I try to equate it to that. Like when we did it, we definitely didn't do it to become a financial juggernaut, right? I mean, there was just, that wasn't in the cards. Right. It was because, and you mentioned the documentary earlier, it was for the love of Rush, literally. It was for the love of the music, love of playing it, and also the love of getting better myself, right? Because I'm using their template. I'm using pieces that they've already put out there that they came up with creatively, which were amazing, right? But I could use those as a blueprint. Oh, wow, this is how you play a song, and you're able to play the bass and sing possibly and hit a MIDI pedal every once in a while because he's doing it. So that's really what happened. So yeah, I mean, some people, some band members, maybe more than others, but really it was always for the love of it. And we take pretty much any money we made and put it back into the band somehow. We'd go get t-shirts or we'd do whatever, I mean, so let's just say money was flying out of my pocket, but going the other direction.
Not flying, right? Not flying,
like
absolutely.
Buying basses, buying amps, buying keyboards, not one gig paid for that. Thank God I have another income stream, right? And that did that for me.
Yeah. Right.
So lucky.
Okay, so now is there a transition that you do from Dave to your persona now that you came up with Spaghetti Lee? Is there a transition to get into that? Is there some kind of thing, or are you just, you're just so used to it now that it just kind of happened? But, is there some kind of transition?
There's the transition pretty much. Just, anymore, it's kind of quick. It's like a lot of it is muscle memory now, right? I mean, we just done it so many times, played so many times. It's kind of like I think in the past, yes, there was, right? I had to psych myself out. I had to get ready, like, oh my God, I'm going to go do this in front of these people. Really? Maybe not so much anymore. Every once in a while, and it's good to get nervous, right? Because if you're not really nervous, then maybe you don't care, maybe you shouldn't be there. Kind of like a professional athlete, right? You don't want to get hurt or whatever. But definitely much easier nowadays. I just kind of, grab the bass and be like, okay, put on some shades. All right, here we are. Get my shirt on, and and then go.
And it's you, yeah. Change is complete.
Yes, right. Change is complete. Yeah, pretty much. And it's really all, and it's feeding off the energy from the crowd, right? Whether it's 10 people or 200 or whatever it is. It's when you get that feeling from the crowd because they enjoy what you're putting out there energy wise. That's where it's like, I think that's where you get it from, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So was there songs? Obviously, you're going through the catalog and you're thinking, okay, what songs would be cool to play? Now, obviously, everybody knows the certain songs that have to be played. Tom Sawyer, Spirit of Radio, all of those songs, they have to be played. Limelight, of course, has to be on that list. There's songs that come out that maybe just for your benefit, for the band. Is there a go-to song that you love, that the band loves to play? That may not be for the audience. It may just be for you to get away from the commercialism of it. What songs might those be?
One of the big one was La Via.
Yeah.
just because it's so hard and it's long, and we just enjoy playing it. And I don't have to sing. That's always a fun part too. When I can actually set down one piece and go, oh, cool. I can just do. I only have to do two things here. So that was one. Early on, Chain Lightning off Presto was one that we used to play a lot because we really liked it, but nobody knew it, right? Except for real diehard Rush fans. They didn't know what it was. Yeah. So, I mean, I always try to gravitate towards those other songs, but over the last few years, you kind of realize like, hey, you gotta do these certain songs, right? And we still pop them in. We'll pop out a song here and put one in. We're playing this week, and we actually inserted 6 new songs for us that we really haven't played. So we're looking forward to that, and that also keeps me going. While it is easier to rely on the muscle memory, it's also good to be a little scared up there and kind of get that feeling again, like, oh my, this is kind of new. This is the first time we've played this in front of an audience. So am I going to hit the triggers correctly? Right. Am I going to forget a verse? Am I going to, so actually I'm really looking forward to doing that, just to kind of, again, I guess it's test myself, right? Can I still do it? Do I still have it? Can I do these songs?
Yeah.
No.
Well, now obviously you're doing in those songs. Okay, you're singing, you're playing the bass, and you're playing the keyboards. So, is there a song that you went maybe secretly, because obviously you pull off like everything in the world, but has there been a time where you were just kind of secretly practicing and going, "Come on, Geddy, how did you possibly do this?" And but then of course you pulled it off. But there's got to be a song out there, and I'd love to hear which one it is that was like the biggest challenge, I'd say.
Wow. God, they seem like they all are in a way. I think it's the ones where he really said, I'm not going to worry about playing the bass and being able to sing, right? There was a time there during the 90s to early 2000s where he didn't worry about that. Well, I'm going to put keyboards on there anyways, right? Or I'm going to play this bass line and it might not match up with my vocal line. But he figured it out. And in some of the times to figure it out, maybe you're not playing the bass line 100% the way he did, because when you watched him, you look at him, you go, oh, I see what he did here. So he could do this, right? He had to change up a little bit. He had to do something to make sure he could do this and do that. The one song though, wow. To sing in, man, I don't know. I might have to come back to that one. I bet that thing's going to pop in my head as we're talking. And then I don't know why it's not coming out right now, but I think there's just so many of them, that there was a lot of them, especially in the early days when the technology was not there, right? Like I'm trying to listen to what's this bass line doing? The kids these days don't realize how hard it was for us in our day, slowing down records.
Exactly.
There's no, AI didn't separate out the tracks for you like they do now, right? I mean, it's a completely different world.
Yeah. Well, I know. And the reason I ask is because there's like, when I was doing, I had done like a Rush Led Zeppelin tribute band.
Mm-hmm.
And we had backing tracks. We did the backing tracks because there's no way I was going to be able to do all of that. So we just had backing tracks. But when I then joined the Rush tribute band that I was in when I came to Arizona, which was Anthem, I just came in as the singer. So I came in as the singer of the band. That's and right. Okay. I got to tell you, the one song that I would look at when I saw these 3 guys play, and I would say there's no way I could possibly do that, was Natural Science. That was one to where I'm watching the bass player and I'm watching him do the keyboards and the bass, and I'm thinking there's no possible way that I would ever be able to do anything like that. So, and so that's why I asked that question. But the funny part is kind of where we sort of meet in one way or another is that when I went to try out for this Rush tribute band, with my guitar player, who was Richard, he brought me over to Rob James' house, and they had another keyboard bass player there who's been doing this anthem for so long.
Right.
They had their guitarist had recently left, and come to find out that the guitarist had, I guess, went to your band, and then we started playing in this band, and then of course afterwards, when our keyboard player just decided, the bass player keyboard player decided he was done. He had arthritis. He really couldn't do it very much anymore. He wanted to just give it up. So of course we disbanded. But then those two, Richard and Rob, had come over to you. So we've kind of always knew of each other back and forth. Never really a rivalry, of course, in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But yeah, it's just kind of funny how it turned out between the two bands, that we kind of intertwined so much. And now they're playing with you, which, I got to tell you, some of the stuff that I've heard is just, phenomenal. These guys were always great. And I will say, the one problem that I had in the band was being the weak link. I always called myself the weak link in that band, because I got to tell you, I close my eyes. I think, I'm listening to the album when these guys would play, and I would have to be so precise because, you ruin one line in the song, or you don't come in at the right time. I had to learn timings. I had to learn all that stuff. Even though I was a huge Rush fan, I was mostly into the bass. When the singing part came along and playing with it, when I had to start counting, it's not just like, okay, 4 times and come in. No, there's totally different timings on when the vocals come in and stuff like that. And I was so nervous every single show,
and it might be harder to just sing it and not play it. Actually, Rush.
Well, it was, because I didn't know I was using the bass key, the bass lines as my key to come in. And without it, I was lost. I was like, oh, now I have to physically count in my head. And I was right next to the bass player the entire time. I'm watching him, looking at where he's going. And I know that, on this note, I gotta start going. So it's a really weird transition, but definitely a lot of fun. But boy, you got to be precise, because it could be a train wreck. It's not like it's a jam, where you can just jam it out. And, like if you're playing Led Zeppelin or something and the solo goes long, or if you're playing another type of music and the solo goes long, or you mess up or something, it doesn't matter. You just come in on the next line,
Jazz, baby, jazz.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't happen with Rush.
No jazz and Rush.
Yeah, right. But now, on top of that, now obviously we can sit here and talk about Rush for the longest time, because I believe both of us, we actually met Geddy for probably the most amazing 6 seconds of our lives. Was at the book signing. I believe I saw you there, in the crowd. You were a little bit ahead of me in doing it. I did get the famous picture I keep putting up of me in the Geddy fist bump, which I thought was great. But yeah, so we have you ever met him before, or met anyone in the band before this?
I got lucky and got to go to a couple meet and greets along the years. Through Rush's management, actually. So that was really cool. And I met Geddy actually at KDKB. When he did that solo album, he all of a sudden, somebody called me and said, hey, I hear Geddy's going to do an interview with KDKB. I go, really? Okay, cool. So I called KDKB that day. I go, hey, is Geddy coming down to the radio station to do an interview today? And they're like, and I'm like, oh man, he's actually in town. He's here. The no answer told me.
Yeah.
So jumped in the car, drove, from the west side all the way over to, this was Guadalupe, right? The old KDKB back in the day, Guadalupe. Or no, actually it was in Mesa. I'm sorry. That was KUPD. But got there, pulled up at the same time as him. So he's getting out, I'm getting out. We exchanged just quickly because he had to go in and do his thing. He goes in, does his thing. I listened to the interview there. I'm like, I'm going to just listen to the interview here. Wait till he comes out. At the time, I had, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you the story. I had my license plate said Ged, Gedd, and that was my bowling name, basically. That was my bowling nickname, Ged. So I I'm sitting there and he's getting ready to come out, and all of a sudden I go, oh man, I need to have him sign my, autograph my license plate. So I'm ripping it off, whatever. He comes back out. There was like 2 of us, I think, that, that stayed, right? And so I run up and I go, hey, can you sign my, can you autograph my license plate? And he looks at me, he looks over at my wife, and he goes, I'm sorry you have to put up with him. And signs it.
Nice.
So that was my interaction with Getty. Yeah. He apologized to my wife. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I only did get to just meet him that one time on there. Actually, no. Yeah, I did get an autograph on the My Favorite Headache tour. He signed the CD. So I do have the CD signed.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, and seemed like a really great person. So the funny part is we were talking earlier before we started recording, we were talking about the Trailer Park Boys. And one of the things that I never realized, I didn't know, was that Alex Lifeson and Rush, of course, were on Trailer Park Boys. And I started watching that it was a couple of years ago. I just started watching it because I just kind of thought it was funny. I saw it. I finally got Netflix or something or whatever I was on.
Yep.
And I started watching it for the first time. And I thought, wow, this is pretty funny. Great show. They're all wasted, whatever. And then I'm watching an episode. I'm watching an episode and I thought I hearing a Rush song playing in the background. And then there's Alex Lifeson like on the streets playing the guitar. And I was like, oh no, I didn't know they were into Rush. So of course, watched every episode from there. I thought that when they went into Gibson Guitars and stole all the guitars to sell them.
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
Just
So he could keep selling
such
them?
a cool episode. Yeah.
And then there
Great
was the one
episode.
where he got kidnapped.
And then, yeah, right. And then, when they did what, Closer to the Heart, where Bubbles got to play Closer to the Heart with him. Yeah. So, and it just shows just what kind of people they are. So just a great show. Now I know we can obviously sit here and talk about Rush forever, but
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think a lot of times, not as much now, but in the early days, people didn't realize the humor that Rush had, right? That they were actually, everybody took them too serious. Oh man, these guys are serious. They're talking about, they're playing in 5 and 7, blah blah blah. These guys are professors, as in like real professors. No, not really. They were just a bunch of goofs like us that happened to write some really cool music, and they were real, a lot of good humor in that band, and I think that's what kept them together as long as it did.
Yeah. Well, so now I want to move on to some other stuff that you've done, because obviously the Rush thing has become a big part. Freewill has become a big part. You guys are doing what is it, your 30th year
30th
anniversary
year this year? Yeah, doing the 30th year this year. Doing a show this week, which will probably be earlier than when this will broadcast. But we're also working on. We're going to do something pretty special towards the end of the year. So maybe I'll be able to come back on and talk to you about it here in a little bit before we do it after the summer. So looking to do a big show, kind of like we did our 20th year anniversary, and then go from there and see what happens next.
Very cool. Now you would think that is so much time to do a Rush tribute, put the show together, do all of that, obviously, but not for Dave, because Dave does more things. I saw like
for punishment.
Yes, and again, I and I start thinking about that. Well, your wife obviously is an amazing person. So when it comes down to the other things that you've done, now I know like about the Cars tribute, things that you've done in the past. Tell us a little bit more about some of the other tributes that you've done.
Sure. Well, and I think after the 20 years of doing the Rush, I needed a break, right? I was a little burnt out. So I kind of didn't just kind of put it on hiatus, or I can't even speak right now. Put it on the shelf for a moment. And then started thinking about some other things, and I got some offers, right? I mean, that was the cool thing about it, because obviously Freewill was kind of like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm running this train, I'm doing blah blah blah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm trying to do all this with a lot of help from a lot of great people along the way, but it was pretty much on me, right? Where these other projects, it was like someone came to me and said, hey, I think you could do Robin Zander. And I went, really? And okay, well, let me try it. And then I did it. And boy, that was hard. Robin Zander,
Really?
wow. That dude. I mean, just what a set of pipes that guy has. And, just like what Rick Nielsen calls him, the voice of man of a thousand voices. I mean, wow. So that was a great wake up call, slap almost. As in, like, oh, you think you're cute, huh? Think you done Geddy Lee for some odd years and you got it all down, and you could just step into whatever you want. And like, oh,
right.
whoa.
Nope.
So that was really good. Had to really work on that hard, and that's still probably the hardest one for me to do out of all of them, just because he is so on it and really, really vocalizing for me. And so I've enjoyed that project as well. The wife's in that project as well. She plays the keyboards. Started up a Paul McCartney and Wings, my guy right here, the dude that started it all right here, this rock show. Did that for a little bit. Silly Love Songs, which for me was a chance to play more, not keyboard, say, but piano, right? Let me sit down at the piano. Let me figure out Maybe I'm Amazed. Let me, how did he do this? Like, just to play those incredible songs that really caused me to want to do this as a child, right? I mean, so I kind of came back to that, did that for a little bit. We had some just logistical issues, really. So we disbanded that. Maybe come back in the future. We'll see. Could be working on something. But then the Cars thing came up too. And the Cars thing, I was like, what? Cars? What do you mean? I'm a metal guy, I tell you what, I started singing those songs and I fell in love with Benjamin Orr, okay? Just like every woman did, and probably a lot of guys back in the day when this guy was running around. I mean, oh my God. What an incredible persona, right? Like, not just, oh, well, he can sing. Oh, well, he can play the bass. He had the charisma. He had the whole deal, man. And that's been probably the funnest one for me lately, is that, because total different type of singing for me. Total different type of bass playing. Grab a pick, mute the strings, I mean, I haven't muted a string or used a pick in how many years playing Rush? You just don't do it. You're using this, right? You're doing all that stuff. So for me, that was just amazing for the change. And I really needed it. I really needed that to kind of broaden me out a little bit. Like I said, oh, you think you're all badass. You've done the Geddy stuff, right? No, not really. Let me knock you down again a little bit. So that's been a real fun one, and something that I didn't expect. So that made it even better, right? Like, wasn't something I even thought of, didn't plan, nothing. Another one where they came to me, and it's been fun. I'm looking forward to doing some more of those shows too.
So then, what's still active right now? Which one of these projects are still active? You said the Cars are still active.
Cars are still active. Right now, the Silly Love Songs is not active at the moment, but maybe some things going on in the background. Surrender right now is it just kind of happens. If a gig happens, we'll do it. We're all in other bands, right? We're all in most of these projects. We're in multiple projects, so it's just kind of what takes precedent at the time. I mean, they're all active in a way because I'm always playing them or walking by the piano and trying to remember. Don't want to lose too much of that, which it seems to. As we get a little older, maybe it seems to fall out of the head a little quicker, so you got to keep these things rolling, right? Like, oh my gosh,
absolutely,
got to keep those calluses going and all that, keep those calluses away, or keep the blood blisters away and all that fun stuff.
Well, I have to say, it amazes me that you do this. Oh, and I'll tell you why. Because as a bass player and as a vocalist myself, and now I play pretty much a lot of original music that
Mm-hmm.
I put out. I also, do a little cover thing just to kind of have fun outside.
Yep.
I do all of that. But I got to tell you, most musicians spend a lifetime trying to figure out how to craft their instrument and how to play their instrument. You have chosen probably the four bands that are so vastly different when you're talking about playing and singing, because if you look at like Geddy, when Geddy Lee is playing the bass and he's using his fingers, he's going back and forth. His fingers are this. He plays each note back, forth, right? He's doing all of that. Now you're talking about taking that, which takes a long time to master, honestly, and you get that down. Now you're going into a band like the Cars, that completely different. And then you have to master that. And of course, Paul McCartney, which was, completely off and different. And then on top of that, now you move into something like Robin Zander, who is also playing guitar, a rhythm guitar, and and then singing. And it's obviously completely different, when it comes down to those types of instruments and those types of playing. That how did you really decide that, like what could possibly be next? Like where do you go from there?
I think Spinal Tap tribute's next, probably, right? Spinal Tap.
Oh,
we'll
that would
go
be awesome.
we'll go that route maybe, and we'll watch a drummer blow up on stage or something.
Right, and then everybody plays the bass in Big Bottom.
Yes, and Big Bottoms, absolutely, that'd be awesome.
I actually saw them live, by the way,
and they were great. I bet.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal show. It was great. It was one of the best concerts I've ever been to. It was hilarious.
How crazy is that, right? Like, I mean, yeah. Rob James saw them actually in London, I believe, and he just said it was amazing to watch them. What's next? I don't know. That's a good question.
What is next?
I've been doing some original music myself as well. So I just released a song. It's actually based off the Dune series. So that Dune movie just came out. The second one just came out a couple days ago. So here it is right here. Fade Keen, the killing word.
Oh,
so this is
all right. This is something new to me. I have not. I didn't know this. I thought I did a lot of research. Apparently not. I didn't realize that was happening. So
snuck one on you. I snuck.
So here we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
so I just did that. That one was really fun. It's
so where can we hear that? Where do we hear that? Are you on Spotify?
What do they say? It's on all the major streaming platforms. Blah blah blah. It's on all the major streaming platforms. Okay. It's called Fade Keen. So they say there you go. Fade Keen, the killing word, and it's out there. It's a real short single, 8 minutes long. Well, it's actually 7:59, but it's kind of got. I don't know. I've been told it's kind of like a Queensryche-ish Iron Maiden type vibe to it or something. But I had a blast doing it, and I had Larry Alia mix it for me. He's done a lot of work in town. He's pretty well known throughout the Phoenix area. He's worked with Papa Roach and some other bands. And Andy Pinkerton was the one. There's actually a video for it too that you can find on YouTube. So there's a full length lyric video, which turned out fantastic. He's out of England, and he does a lot of stuff for metal bands like Judas Priest and KK Downing and all that stuff. Flotsam and Jetsam, local guys, local heroes here. So he did the video, and I sent him three lines. Hey, maybe put this in this and this. And I got back this video, and I cried the first time I saw it. It was so good. This guy, he was like, oh, dude, this is my wheelhouse. So, yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. And everybody check out Fade Keen, the killing word.
Now tell me that you have musicians doing this, or you're going to tell me now and totally knock me off my chair that you're doing all the instruments. I'm assuming you have a band on this one.
No, I'm a glutton
Yeah.
for punishment. I did all the instruments myself.
Oh, come on. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find something you don't do, and now you're completely throwing me off. Really,
Well,
you played all the instruments on this.
yeah, yeah. It started out as just I was just getting ready to write a song. Like I was like, okay, I got a new my old computer system had died. I got a new one, and I was like, all right, let me just kind of start plunking away, get some sounds. Right. That's literally what I was doing,
Yeah.
and somehow that
Wow.
song popped out, and
That's
just
impressive.
really enjoyed it and had a fun time. Where this is probably a lot of times in the past, and I think you probably could relate to this. Sometimes listening to your originals are painful, like after the fact.
Mhm.
Like, oh man, I could have done this. Even Getty says, they're never done. They're just ripped away from you, right? At least the record company does it that way, whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's tough to listen to what you put down. But this is the one song where I'm like, wow, like I actually like this song. So it's kind of like it's just one of
Yeah.
those weird things. I thought that I didn't like the other ones, right? But like I'm like, wow, like maybe I didn't write this. Maybe it was someone else, and that's why I like it so much. But
Wow.
yeah,
Well, that's
it was
great. We
fun.
definitely got
I'd
to
like
give
to do
that
a
a
full
listen.
album, but it's just the whole time crunch, right? Like, can I put myself in the studio that long? And usually when I do my original stuff, I'll just kind of give you another tidbit. It's usually because I've worked myself to death in my real job and I am sick and I am like can't work and I'm like on all this medication or whatever because I've been running for 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is, nonstop. And then I'm down at home, right? And
Yeah.
then that's where it usually happens. And and that's when I get the time, and I'm usually sick when it happens. So,
Right. Wow. Well, we
weird.
definitely have to listen to that, and I will certainly take a listen to that myself, and hopefully everybody out there
Cool. Yeah.
will find it and listen to
I
it.
hope you enjoy it.
Um, yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure I will. I'm sure I'll be impressed. It's not like like I said, we try to look at all the differences that you do and everything that you put together and all of the different styles that you do. Very impressive that it's going to be really good to hear what the original, Dave is going to be.
Yeah.
Or now it's Dave, I don't need any other stinking musicians, Cornwall, being out there playing. So I think it'll be really
I
cool
still
here.
need them. It was more just happened that way. Yeah, I
Right.
definitely enjoy playing. I mean, you can never replace the feeling of multiple people putting together, making it at one time, right? This just happened to be what
Right.
it was, and but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it.
Right.
Hopefully I'll get to
Yeah.
do some more.
Well, I'm glad that there is some original music out there that we can listen to. So I will definitely take a listen to that. Hopefully, everybody else will. But
Yeah,
Dave, I do want to thank you for being on the podcast. It was great
thank
to
you.
finally meet you after all of these many years, and being a fan myself after seeing that documentary years ago. Uh, you know, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great being you and I kind of have the same sort of
Absolutely.
backgrounds together when it comes to music. So
Yeah,
hopefully we'll see each other a lot more and be able to get together again. And after you get this, your 30th anniversary thing going, maybe we'll get back on again and
that'd be fun.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that'd
I
be great.
appreciate
No,
that.
fabulous talking to you. This was fun. It went by super quick. I'm like, what?
Right.
We're done already? No, that was fun.
Right.
Hey, you call me anytime. I'll come back anytime.
I appreciate that. All right. So for everybody else listening, please look up Dave and just check out all the stuff he does. They can look at the Facebook page and just check out Dave, where he's at and what he's doing and what he's got going on. Obviously, there's quite a bit. So put some time aside because there's a lot happening. So thank you for joining us. This is Living in the Limelight podcast. I'm your host, Anton Scholl. Dave, thank you for joining us. And for all of you, please listen, like, subscribe, and support these local musicians, any musicians. Support these musicians. We do need you.
Thank you so much.
So thank you very much. Dave, hang on for a bit and we'll talk a little bit afterwards. But thank you again for joining us and we will talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining our Living in the Limelight podcast with your host, Anton Scholl. Please feel free to comment, like, follow, share, and subscribe. And also add us to your playlist on your favorite streaming sites. Thanks again for joining, and we'll talk to you again next week.